Hi Dogwood, this is Joy Phipps, the RTI coach, and I wanted to take just a few minutes to go over a very brief overview of the RTI process. First off, I wanted to start out with what is the purpose of RTI. As many of you know, it is meant to target students who have a gap in their understanding of reading and math. Then what we do is we work to catch them up to their grade level so they will have success. This is a really eye-opening quote as to why we really need to fill in these gaps of understanding before we immediately put somebody into SPED. It is estimated that up to 80% of students identified as having a specific learning disability do not have a disability at all. They simply never mastered the ability to read. Here are just some reminders about RTI. First off, it is meant to be a catch and release model. So students are meant to get caught in a tier, fill in that gap in their understanding, and released back into their grade level. It is based on skills and not standards. What this means is there is a hierarchy of skills for both the foundation of reading and math, and it is going from basic to more complex skills that build on each other. Also, RTI is based on a student's instructional level, not grade level. If a student is put in Tier 2 or Tier 3, they are automatically measured at being at least 1 year behind instructionally. We really need to consider that when we're giving assessments. Finally, RTI Squared has replaced the S-Team process. So what that means is the RTI process is meant to gather data to look at a student's rate of improvement over time to see if they can realistically catch back up to their grade level in a given amount of time. If they can, then the RTI process has been successful. If we find that their rate of improvement is not going to catch them up to grade level in the appropriate amount of time, that signals to us that there might be another need and further testing will need to be done. So, the quote by Josh Shipp is, "Every kid is one caring adult away from being a success story." The good news for Dogwood students is that we have a building full of caring adults. I did want to take just a second to clarify the resources. I know that this can be a little bit confusing at times. So I wanted to go over the difference between the use of Amplify, EasyCBM, and MobyMax. First off, Amplify, which we went over during the first week of in-service, is a standards-based assessment tool. It is to be used during regular classroom instruction. It does have benchmarks that all students will take during either math or language arts time. It also offers quick checks in order to use for your pre and post test, quizzes, or common formative assessments. EasyCBM is skill-based. It is meant for us to gather RTI data with. All students will take the benchmarks during IE time. This data will be used to flag our tiered students. It will also be used to progress monitor students who are a Tier 2 or Tier 3. MobyMax is an instructional tool that can sometimes be used for classroom instruction or practice, or some very specific practice during intervention time while a teacher works with a small group. Some of the tools that you can use in MobyMax, I know many of you are familiar with these. They do have an assessment test both in reading and math. They offer quick practice with FactMaster and vocab. And it will create a computerized learning path. The learning path does get more difficult, and it is based on a variety of standards. So these are the very basic steps of the RTI process. I'm going to go over just the broad steps, and later in PLC meetings, I will go over more specific details. So step number 1 is what I have been doing the first 2 weeks of school. The RTI team has been reviewing the spring Easy CBM data benchmark and flagging all Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. Secondly, we have gone around to all the GMSD elementary and middle schools, and we have pulled all of the Tier 2 and Tier 3 students one-on-one to drill down to more specific areas of need. So we've basically given them assessments on each of the skills in either math or language arts to figure out what skill are they lacking in, and then what instructional level for that skill do they need to begin with. Thirdly, common areas of need are being identified in each grade based on their skill, their tier, and their instructional levels. Basically, what I've done is with the information from the survey level assessments, I've gone ahead and grouped students into tiers, and within those tiers, I've said these kids all need intervention with this skill. Lastly, I'll be coming around to meet with PLCs on September 3rd to share all of this data and to set up our IE groups and to figure out what teacher would like to teach what skill. So now I want to take just a few minutes to go over what should be happening in Tier 3, Tier 2, and Tier 1. So for Tier 3, this is a focus on one skill for 4 weeks. Here you can see the breakdown of math skills and reading skills from basic to most complex. So the math skill is going to start with place value, then addition, subtraction, then multiplication, division, then fractions, then ratios and proportions. The reading hierarchy is letter sounds, then phoneme awareness, then fluency. Now fluency can include word reading fluency and passage reading fluency, and finally comprehension. In Tier 3, students will be given weekly progress monitoring, and this will be done using Easy CBM. Everyone in the district is going to start out by using Easy CBM to progress monitor. Finally, Tier 3 should be the smallest ratio of students to teacher. Ideally, for every one teacher, there should be no more than 3 students. These are the students that need us the most. Tier 2. So Tier 2, like Tier 3, is a focus on one skill for 4 weeks. Here's a reminder of the hierarchy of skills. There will be progress monitoring, but unlike Tier 3, Tier 2's progress monitoring only happens every other week. These groups are slightly larger, ideally 1 to 5. Finally, what is happening in Tier 1 with so many of our students? This is a great time for teachers to really dig deep into your standards and spend some extra time beefing up lessons that you've already taught. So, what is it? It is leveled instruction. It should be data driven. This is a time where you can use your Amplify benchmark reports, you can use CFAs and other assessment measures to go ahead and decide what Tier 1 group do you want to put people in. Then, what you should do, in my opinion, is figure out project-based learning ideas that are related to the standards that you want to focus on. This is really where you can bring in some standard-based creativity. For example, you may want to focus on the writing for the 10 ready. Some of you might prefer to do a novel study, wordly-wise or vocab practice, math centers or math tasks. You could even do presentations and research. Here are some things that I would try to stay away from during Tier 1 IE time. So it's not a time to review classwork that you've already taught. So you should not be reteaching a lesson you've already taught. It should not be unstructured time. It cannot be a continuation of class because our Tier 3 and Tier 2 students cannot miss class instruction. So please consider that as you are planning what to do during Tier 1. Finally, I wanted to end with some things that are coming up. We are forming our RTI committee, and we will begin having our meetings at the end of August. I will be visiting your PLC meetings monthly, and that will start in early September. And finally, if you do begin to have a concern about specific students, please remember that I must have data to back up whatever concerns that you're having for me to begin testing. So we can work on that together. Please feel free to email me any of your questions or stop by my office